Good morning, everybody. I hope you had a great evening, and I hope you are having a beautiful day. I didn't get to talk about the manifest much in the last video because it's pretty big. It was pretty good sized. But in this kind of episode, I'm gonna call it episode. In this episode, I kind of want to talk about the manifest a little bit. And I think this applies to manifests, no matter what the application is. But this is going to be basically the manifest for this application. And I'll show you the manifest that was created when we ran the test using the FOMod utility to install a mod. And you can see that here. You can actually see it over here. This is the um, that. Let's see. Want to go here, right here. So you can see the folder. This is the development folder I use when I'm compiling it, and it's pretty much the actual the folder that I release is pretty much a carbon copy of it, minus some things that may or may not really apply. Let's see. We don't want that. God, you can tell it's early over here. Okay. Let's just scoot this up a little bit, make sure it's centered in the window. But it's a carbon copy, so there's a few folders that don't exist. There's no reason to put this out, the actual mod folder, because that has like where I did some testing, and that may not apply to uh, whatever you're doing, or the mods that you're trying to put in your game. Okay, so if you look at the manifest, it's the same exact text-based format, and it's really broken down into just three tags or three pieces. You have the load order, and this is my load order because remember when you open a game, it actually opens your current game, so it gets the current game's load order. This is the what I call the live load order. This is what the game is actually using. This is plugin. This is a copy of the plugin text file, so it's not really like load order text or what you might be working on. And you can use that uh, in the FOMod utility to do file checking. It needs to know what plugins are in your load order. And there's a couple ways you can do that. Right now, I just have it set to use the live load order. And that I tested it. It seems to work okay. However, if you're trying to select mods that are not currently installed, but you've got them ready to install, then that plugin will not exist in the plugin text file. And therefore, uh, the way the FOMod utility is set up, it's not going to know it's there. But you could switch that over to use the load order text file, or you can just simply save your load order to load order text, or the load order .txt file, or you can save it to plugin.txt. You can do either or. There's no really inter-process communications. There's a couple ways I could do it, but I'm not really gonna. There's some code in there. It's untested. I kinda just looked the idea up about a couple years ago, and somebody mentioned, "Hey, how about trying this?" And, okay, I'll throw it in there, and I never really tested it, but it does need some mitigation issues. It needs some tokens to make sure that there's no crossing of information if you've got a lot of information being spread. There is a networking library. I could use, I could use ports, TCP ports, but I didn't include that in this. So for right now, I'm just kind of keeping it simple, but that's something to be aware of when you're using it. And that's if you look at the full index, that should let you select the item, whether or not the file has a dependency or not. Okay, so but back to the manifest. So you can see that's my load order, and then the second piece of the information is whatever I've installed. This is the install list. So you can see the menu framework that I installed. I already had it installed from the main application, which you can't see because I'm kind of reducing the window size to make it more accessible. But, the main application I'm working on, I installed it with that, so it just basically overwrote it. That's why you saw replace, 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 because it just simply replaced the same files. And then this is the actual, audit entry. This is the actual entry. So these are your manifest entries. There's the timestamp of the entry that is part of the key to get to it. And then this is the audit record for that entry, and it simply has now this is the information I put in here. I may take some out. I doubt it, but I may add some information to this because I might need more information in the future. I really don't think so. I think this has all I need just for this type of data structure, but just in case. There's the timestamp of the transaction, the number of files that was in that folder, and this is not the number of files that was installed. That's just the number of files in the folder. And then you have the number of bytes, and I put the number of files, number of bytes because I wanted to be able to have an audit for this particular folder. There's not really a hash included in this file for that folder. So it's just kind of a quick way to check it and say, do I have the same folder? And I didn't really use that feature. I just kind of, as I'm coding something like, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? And then you kind of test it out. You kind of run your code, you test it, you get it working, and you go back in and think, I don't really need this or this to make it work. And this is the action that was performed. And you can only have install, update, merge, and uninstall. Those are really the only 4 options that I really I'm working on. Install flat out just drops everything in there. Update only drops things in there that have changed. That if you look on that little check install report will be yellow, showing there's a conflict. It'll overwrite. It only overwrites files. Merge only copies files that don't already exist. And then, of course, uninstall uninstalls. And then you can see this is a record of what each file, how each file was applied, whether it was copied, replaced, or restored. You can actually see copy file, replace file, restore file, and then you can see delete file. If you're going to uninstall, you'll see delete. That's what you'll see here. Now, there's other things that can show up, like skipped file. If there was a problem, like let's say for some reason you currently running the game and you're trying to install a mod and that file is locked by the game, it'll literally just kick out of the uninstall and it'll tell you. You'll actually see somewhere here there will be an audit that will stop and it'll tell you there was a problem. Yeah, so that's pretty much what this is. It just kind of helps you keep track of what was done. Now, talking about if you're talking when I was talking earlier about how the install mod method can take a single file name or it can take a an array list. That's because I put it's fairly extensible. I put object checking in there. So if you pass it a string, it knows it's a string. If you pass it an array list, it knows it's an array list. If you pass it something that it doesn't handle, it'll tell you that, and it just simply won't do anything. And I tried to incorporate that in as many methods as I could. So again, it's pretty extensible. But to give you some ideas, if you install, like, let's say 100 files and you have a list of or 100 mods, you have a list of 100 different mods. And this would be, let's just say that you want to treat this right here, the installed mod, as your install order. So you literally could grab all of these. You could just grab this whole list. And then if the framework is coded to accept selected items, means selected, it's in the key, it's in the clipboard. If and there's variables to do that. That's in the framework. I believe you put like a dash use clipboard as a parameter. So when you pass, like let's say you have a method that requires a file name and then there's no other parameters after that. You can put the file name or something, and then or you just put blank or something, put a comma, and then you put dash use clipboard. And if the method is coded to do that, the clipboard automatically adds its items, or the method already, or not the method, but the framework already adds all the clipboard items to the data list that goes into that function info. It automatically puts it in there for you, and then you just have to cycle through them. And that's what that data return was yesterday when I was kind of working on. I was kind of trying to make it so that it has all these different possibilities, but it's transparent to whoever's using it. I wanted to make it transparent, so it's like, okay, you gave me this. I know what you wanna do. Oh, you're somebody different? You tried something different? Yep, know what you wanna do, you're good to go. But That being said, this actually can be your, this is your installation order, and it does put them in order, and it doesn't really rearrange these. So it puts them in order 1, 2, 3, 4, sequentially as you install mods. So this can be your install order. You could literally grab and do an install that way, as opposed to going back and doing like a section install. Um, this could be copy and pasted directly into the install order of the main app. I could do that, and and that would be the install order, but that's separate from what we're talking here. But this is your installation order. So you set your application up to do that, and you literally can do like a complete full install. You can rearrange these. You can just rearrange. I can use this text editor here. You can rearrange it however you want, and then you can just simply do a complete full install of all your mods. But okay, so we're gonna get to the uninstall in just a second. Okay, and then this is, like I say, this is what took place. Um, Now with this manifest, something, because I haven't really looked at this in a while, but I'm having to gear up to do it because there's things I need to address. There is methods that try to clean the manifest up, but I wouldn't use them yet because they're still a little bit buggy or there's some unhandled conditions. But an example of that would be, let's say I turn right around and I installed the same mod twice. Let's say I installed it again. Okay, it would actually take it out of this, like, let's say there's 5 mods here. I'm gonna install this same mod again. It will remove it out of this list here, and it puts it at the very end because that's when you reinstalled it, and that changes your order. However, you will have 2 entries because remember, it's by transaction date. It's by a timestamp date. That's the primary key. So you will have 2 complete entries in this manifest to complete. So that was part of the problem. You have duplicate entries. Well, they're not really duplicate, but you have 2 installs of the same thing. And if you kept doing that, the manifest keeps getting bigger, bigger, bigger. And then when you get like 4, 5, 6,000 mods, the file gets pretty big. Trust me, it gets big fast. So part of what the flush method does is try to clean this up. It says, okay, you've installed this. Some of the easiest things to do is say, oh, you installed this here. You installed it again here. I want the latest version. I'm going to flush, excuse me, or remove from the manifest the previous entry. I'm going to remove the previous one because it's the exact same thing. You did a complete reinstall. The files match. We're all good. So I'm going to remove that. Another one would be if you uninstall the mod and then you want to remove the install and the uninstall because it's no longer it's not in your game anymore. And there's a reason to do that. Normally, when I first thought about it, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to make this a complete transaction history, and I'm going to leave it like that. But then it got big. I mean, over time, if you're playing the same game over and over again, you mod, you change, the manifest gets pretty good size. Especially if you're having especially if you do things like PG Patcher or Community Shade. Well, not Community Shade. Well, yeah, no, not Community Shade, but like PG Patcher, any kind of thing that generates output, Xlog Gen, things like that. If you make a separate mod for that and then you want to install that, then it includes every one of those files in the manifest. So you do that enough and it gets big quick. Um, there is a method in the games library which has they're uninstall methods, and there's like 4 or 5 of them in there, and you can uninstall based on these manifest entries, but it does need the manifest key to do this. It needs that entry key. You can install based on files that's in the folder. So if you went in and did, let's say, let's see if we can bring this up here. I'm going to close this. Let's bring this up real quick. So let's say you have, let's say that you have, I don't even know if that, yeah, this one won't have any in it. Mine will though. All right, so let's go ahead and drop that. Let's bring this up. Let me have this. I believe mine still has the test folders in it. All right. Yeah, it does. But I have to get this. I've got to get this over here where you can see it because I am doing a much smaller window. So we're going to move this like this. So, you do have the mod folders here. See, you could put an uninstall function here. You could put like something. So in the menu system, in the text menu system, you would just put uninstall, and then you would have to put the opcode in. The case statement would have to link back to the uninstall method, and then you just simply would. And this would the reference would automatically be passed, especially if you use the F link. It automatically gets passed to that, and then all you would have to do is yeah, it would just uninstall it. Um, But one of the things of the manifest, let's go ahead and close all this out. One of the things of the manifest is you want to be able to restore previous files, because these are manual installs right now. They're manual. So you could do something like if you're using symlinks. If you use symlinks and folder junctions, you can build your let's say you can build your output folder, and then you can directly apply the output folder to your game folder. You could do that. So you would take your old output and you would delete your old output from your game folder, and then you would apply. And it's much simpler. Believe me, I did it with Vegas. I didn't get the symlinks to work with BSA files, but I did get it to work with loose files. And the reason I didn't want to do loose files here on this system when I play a game, the reason I'm doing a direct install is because my game is installed on an SSD, and all of my mods are installed on an HDD, which is much slower. So I didn't want to. I wanted to push the SSD, the speeds of the SSD, rather than fall back on the HDD. That is why I chose direct install, and that the SSD is not big enough to put, um, 4 or 5 terabytes with it. It's not that big because the game, not the game drive, but my working drive is about an 8 terabyte drive. Okay, so I could do just the mods I'm installing. That is true, but I don't really want to kind of. I'm just going to keep like this for now. All right. So when you install, basically, you just need to give it. I believe it's just the key. It's just the timestamp key, and then it reads all these entries, and then it'll start removing them. Now, if it finds a previous entry, if it finds a previous entry in, like, let's say you've installed this twice. Here's one of the problems with it. If you install this twice and then you uninstall the second one, the first one is still in the manifest. So it goes, "Oh, you just installed a file. Let me back up and see if I can find something you overwrote, and then I need to restore that." Because if let's say you got one version of a mod, you install another version of a mod, you delete that current version, you need to fall back on the one you overwrote. Unless you wanna completely uninstall it. Again, that's another kind of caveat of the whole process. So if it falls back on here, it goes, "Oh, yeah, wait a minute, you've got an install entry prior, so I need to use that." Even though it's the exact same thing, it doesn't really check it. Um So, that's not really going to wait. No, I am incorrect. Yeah, I was thinking something entirely different. Yeah, like, when you look at this, yes, that is true. However, if you build a manifest when you open the manifest, when it builds that database, it only puts a single entry in for this. It's always gonna be the last one. So, if you're uninstalling that one, it'll have to fall back to a previous one. But I had to make sure it didn't fall back past any uninstalls. All that should be accounted for. But again, there's a lot of testing. So yeah, you have just to just ignore what I said like about 3 minutes ago. That does not apply. But so, anyways, this is the manifest. This is what was created when you did when you did the install. So you can use this as your installation order. And if you mod the code a little bit, I don't think it's going to take too much. It might already work out of the box. You can just copy this from the clipboard and off you go. And that's about it. Just wanted to kind of show you the three components of this and kind of talk about the manifest a little bit and kind of pass that information along. All right, I've got to get the day started. Yeah, I hope everybody has good and have fun, enjoy modding, and don't be afraid to try something you've never tried before. I'm not talking about bad mods that crash the game and completely cause that kind of static, but try doing a little bit of programming, or yeah, it doesn't hurt. It's a lot of fun. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later.